Hi class, it's Miss Dolores and I'm going to read you a story today. It's from Beatrix Potter, who is a very famous writer of children's books. And I have a whole bunch of them. So tonight, or today, I'm going to read you The Tale of the Squirrel Nutkin. I don't know what a nutkin is, but I think it has something to do with a squirrel. See this little guy? Some reason he looks like he's dancing. But let's see what it's all about, okay? If I can get to the first story. Oh, this is the first page. Looks like they're looking for nuts. Must be getting on to winter time. That's what squirrels do. They find all kinds of nuts and they bury them and they remember where they are. So, this is a tale about a tail. A tail that belonged to a little red squirrel, and his name was Nutkin. He had a brother called Twinkleberry, that's silly, and a great many cousins, and they all lived in a wood at the end of a lake. And this is Nutkin. Let's see what happens. In the middle of the lake there was an island covered with trees and nut bushes. And among those trees stands a hollow oak tree, which is the house of an owl, who is called Old Brown. Owls come out at nighttime. They see good in the nighttime. Can you see him? That's his tree. Uh-oh. Hope they're not going to try to take nuts out of his tree. One fall day when the nuts were ripe and the leaves on the hazel bushes were golden and green, Nutkin and Twinkleberry and all the other little squirrels came out of the wood and down to the edge of the lake. Look, they're all gathering here. Can you see? There's a little squirrel out on the lake. I don't know, he's rowing or something. Because they all want to get food for the winter time, because you can't find the nuts on the in the winter time. They made little rafts out of twigs, and they paddled away over the water to Owl Island to gather some nuts. Each squirrel had a little sack and a large oar and spread out his tail for a sail. So see, they put their tails up. It's like a sailboat to them. And the wind just blows their tails. See them on the little rafts, and they're going over to the island over here. See what happens on the island. They also took with them an offering of 3 fat mice as a present for Old Brown and put them down upon his doorstep. Oh. Then Twinkleberry and the other little squirrels each made a low bow and said politely, "Old Mr. Brown, will you favor us with your permission to gather nuts upon your island?" Oh. There he is. There's Mr. Owl, and they're asking him. See? They don't want to do it without him knowing, because it's his island. At least he thinks it is. But Nutkin was excessively impertinent in his manners. He bobbed up and down like a little red cherry, singing, riddle me, rat-a-tat-tote, a little wee man in a little red coat, a staff in his hand and a stone in his throat. If you'll tell me this riddle, I'll give you a groat. Now, I have no idea what any of that means. And I don't think the owl knew what that meant. He just shut his eyes and went to sleep. He didn't know what they were talking about. Look, he said, "Go away. Let me sleep." Because owls like to sleep in the daytime, and this was the daytime. Well, what did the squirrels do? Let me see. The squirrels filled their little sacks with nuts and sailed away home in the evening. Oh, there they are. See how cute? They got their little sacks. And they're going to each bury their own nuts, so when the winter comes, they have food. Next morning, they all came back again to Owl Island, and Tinkleberry and the others brought a fine fat mole and laid it on the stone in front of Old Brown's doorway and said, "Mr. Brown, will you favor us with your gracious permission to gather some more nuts?" Guess that wasn't enough. And here they are going up to the tree. See? And all the squirrels with their fluffy tails. I love Beatrix Potter. But Nutkin, who had no respect, again, began to dance up and down, tickling old Mr. Brown with a branch and singing another silly song. Mr. Brown woke up suddenly and carried the mole into his house. Nutkin doesn't get it. The owl wants to sleep at night. He's a little upset because he wants to sleep. He shut the door in Nutkin's face. Presently, a little thread of blue smoke from a wood fire came up from the top of the tree, and Nutkin peeped through the keyhole and sang, "A house full, a hole full, and you cannot gather a bowl full." Who knows? Silly, silly, silly little Nutkin. Doesn't make any sense. And this book was written a long time ago, these stories, so they used to speak differently sometimes. The squirrels searched for nuts all over the island and filled their little sacks again. But Nutkin gathered oak apples, yellow and red, and sat upon a beech stump playing marbles while watching the door of old Mr. Brown. There he is. He's playing marbles with his nuts. And old Mr. Brown the owl's in his house trying to sleep. On the third day, the squirrels got up very early and went fishing. They caught 7 fat minnows as a present for old Mr. Brown. They paddled over the lake and landed under a crooked chestnut tree on Owl Island. Oh, look, they're all fishing. See the little fishing poles? Do you think squirrels really know how to fish? No, I don't know. They know how to gather squirrels. Twinkleberry and 6 other little squirrels each carried a fat minnow. Minnow is a little fish. But Nutkin, who had no nice manners, brought no present at all. He ran in front, singing another silly song. But old Mr. Brown took no interest in riddles, not even his song, nothing, not even when the answer was provided for him. And here's Nutkin. He doesn't have a lot of manners. All the others do. See, they're nice in line. On the 4th day, the squirrels brought a present of 6 fat beetles, which were as good as plums and plum pudding for Old Brown. Each beetle was wrapped up very carefully in a leaf and fastened with a pine needle pin. But Nutkin sang as rudely as ever. It was a ridiculous song of Nutkin to sing. He had not gotten any ring to give to Old Brown. I'm not going to sing these songs because they're silly songs and I don't understand them. I don't know if anybody does. But it's very silly. And here they are. They wrapped up the beetles. See? And they're giving them to Mr. Brown. The other squirrels hunted up and down the nut bushes, but Nutkin gathered robin's pincushions off a briar bush and stuck them full of pine needle pins. So those are flowers, see? He's taking the tops of flowers and he's putting pine needle pins in there. That would hurt if you sat on it. Why was he doing that? Do you think we'll find out? I hope so. He should be looking for nuts. On the 5th day, the squirrels brought a present of wild honey. Oh, It was so sweet and sticky that they licked their fingers as they put it down upon the stone. They had taken it out of a bumblebee nest on the tippity top of the hill. But Nutkin skipped up and down singing, oh, a silly song again. I just don't know what he's doing. Old Mr. Brown, oh, did I show you that picture? Here. Little balls of honey. But they don't show Nutkin with his silly song. Maybe there's a reason. Old Mr. Brown turned up his eyes in disgust at the impertinence of Nutkin, but he ate up the honey. See, look. He's eating the honey, and Nutkin's trying to sneak in there. I don't know. What's going to happen at the end of this? Let's see. The squirrels filled their little sacks with nuts, but Nutkin sat upon a big flat rock and played ninepins with a crabapple and green fir cones. Ninepins is something like bowling. That's what they used to call it a long time ago, see? He set up the pine cones, and he pretends they're like bowling pins. I don't think Nutkin's going to have any food. On the 6th day, which was Saturday, the squirrels came again for the last time. They brought a new laid egg in a little basket as a last parting present for Old Brown. But Nutkin ran in front, laughing and shouting. Should I say? I'm going to say this one. Humpty Dumpty lies in the beck with a white counterpane around his neck. 40 doctors and 40 rights cannot put Humpty Dumpty to rights. Now old Mr. Brown took an interest in eggs. He opened one eye and shut it again, but still he did not speak. There's Mr. Brown, the owl, and the little egg in front, see? Nutkin became more and more impertinent. Oh, Mr. B, old Mr. B, hickamore, hickamore on the king's kitchen door. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't drive hickamore, hackamore off the king's kitchen door. Nutkin danced up and down like a sunbeam, but still old Mr. Brown said nothing at all. Do you understand these songs? They're silly songs. I don't know what they mean. But there he is dancing. Nutkin began again. Arthur O'Bower has broken his band. He comes roaring up the land. The King of Scots with all his power cannot turn Arthur of the Bower. Nutkin made a whirring sound like the wind, and he took a running jump right onto the head of old Mr. Brown. Then all at once there was a flutterment and a scufflement and a loud squeak. The other squirrels scattered away into the bushes. Why would he do that? Look at that. Mr. Brown's been so nice, the owl. See, he's let them get their nuts and everything. What do you think old Nutkin's up to? When they came back very cautiously, peeping around the tree, there was Old Brown sitting on his doorstep, quite still, with his eyes closed as if nothing had happened. But Nutkin was in his waistcoat pocket. This looks like the end of the story, but it isn't. It looks like he's tickling him. Does he like him to play with? Let's see what happens. Old Brown carried Nutkin into the house and held him up by the tail, intending to spank him. But Nutkin pulled so very hard that the tail broke in two, and he dashed up the staircase and escaped out of the attic window. He was going to spank him bad for being so fresh. See, here's Mr. Owl in the hole in his tree, and here's Nutkin, but half his tail is missing. Well, and to this day, if you meet Nutkin up a tree and ask him a riddle, he will throw sticks at you and stamp his feet and scold and shout, because he never wants to be picked up by an owl again, because he knows he did something wrong. And I guess the squirrels go, "Cuck-cuck-cuck-gur, cuck-cuck-cuck-gur." I don't know if that's how it sounds, but that's what the book says. And I don't know, I think he never went over to the island again because he was afraid to get spanked by the owl. The end. So that was the tale of Squirrel Nutkin. See you guys.